Welcome back to Have You Heard, the social media podcast by us here at The Social Shepherd. My name is Zoe. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO, and today I'm joined by...
Hi guys, I'm Jack, the other co-founder of Zoe.
And...
Joey, Senior Paid Media Director.
Thank you for joining us both. We have Joey here today because we've lots of updates that impact performance marketing. One of the first ones that we want to talk about is the fact that ChatGPT recently announced yesterday, I believe, or maybe the day before, that they have introduced stronger shopping capabilities into their platforms. So whenever people are searching things within ChatGPT or asking for specific things, we're getting product recommendations, and people that own brands, for example, are seeing updates come through where they're seeing specific traffic come through from the platform onto specific product pages. So we're entering a bit of a new era of commerce, I would say.
Yes, and I know you obviously, Zoe, had a recent podcast with someone that owns a search agency talking about e-commerce, SEO, and I think it is the landscape's changing rapidly. We're seeing search traffic decline on from more traditional platforms like Google and going to ChatGPT, and the product discovery piece is changing. So I'm not surprised that they've released something like this, and we also know that there are rumors of an integration with Shopify as well. There's apparently a code leak that suggested that they are working together. So no, I think it's obviously changing lots, and I think for us, commerce and working with Shopify brands and retail brands is a big component of what we do. So I think for Joey, it's going to change your world a lot. Adding another platform maybe into the mix.
Because it is search at the end of it. This is the new version of search that we're heading into realistically, which is a huge part of what we offer here. So it's just adapting those principles and making sure that we're top of ChatGPT's mind. I guess.
I mean, it's interesting at the moment because obviously the way that there's no ads being run on ChatGPT.
No, not yet,
at the
but
moment.
there probably will be.
But yeah,
yes.
I guess that's a topic of discussion that we can roll into. But certainly the way that GPT is pulling all of the information that is obviously it's all based off organic information. Now that's really interesting, certainly from a shopping perspective, because I think one of the things that we're seeing on the shopping activity at the moment is quite a lot of brands move across to something what's called a CSS, or a comparison shopping service, which is only available in the EU, but it means that you're able to buy your clicks at a discount cost, 20% from Google, if you're on those. However, if you move across to those, you don't appear organically on Google for any shopping listings. So I do wonder whether that means that ChatGPT is going to be able to read any of those brands when it's crawling the ether and the space to try and find all of these shopping listings, essentially.
Well, because that's what I was going to ask was, I'm presuming that it's just taking information that it's finding out elsewhere, whereas traditionally you would have a product feed, which we don't have specific product feeds for AI search engines, do we? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, this is it. Like, so I think the information that's being crawled is either from websites themselves or from what's out on the landscape already from a Google perspective.
Yeah, I've actually got it. It's the shopping results will be based on structured metadata from third parties, such as pricing, product descriptions, and reviews. So it's just pulling from those other sources currently.
Obviously wants to show the most trusted results, unlike search, which is going to give you a ton of responses, which obviously ChatGPT can do if you prompt it to do so. But it's from the initial images that we see out there, it was sort of 3 key product shots. So I don't think they're gonna be going after the ones that they can, have the trust signals that can really.
So really, what we're gonna have to start doing is looking and seeing how clients' products are ranking within search engines, if at all, to then try and optimize it and make sure. And as an agency, we have organic search partners that we work with traditionally, but this is gonna. Where do you think this will land within the ecosystem? Because technically, it is organic search. So, is that going to mean that SEO agencies are going to be pivoting?
They already are.
Pivoting.
Well, not all of them, but because. Well, I think until this update, there hasn't, dependent on what you're offering, basically, it hasn't necessarily been needed.
Well, I mean, speaking to our search partners, they're getting asked a lot by clients. How are we ranking? What are we doing there? What's our strategy there? So it is a big topic right
When
now.
I spoke to Josh from ClickSlice, it is ClickSlice, isn't it? Yes. He was saying that you don't get full access to the search volume data from ChatGPT, which makes it really difficult to be able to plan and understand what the actual return could be on any investment that's made in helping people rank there, and that it is a slightly different strategy to organic search as well. So it's a bit of a tricky one at the minute. And I don't think, I think if this Shopify integration comes to life, it'll move much quicker than it will if it just stays kind of as it is potentially.
Yeah, I think what you can sort of mirror is understanding any decreases maybe in your existing search volume, and also looking at just broader overall uses. How many daily active users does it have versus the likes of other search engines? Is that 10-20% now? Is it higher? Could that, and then you might think actually 10 to 20% of total searches are now being done over here. That could sort of mirror out what an expected value could be, or search results, search traffic and volume that there could be.
Well, it's making the whole scene a lot more complicated, because Google Trends is really the benchmark in terms of volume of demand that's out there at the moment, but people are moving away from that, and we're seeing decreases in volumes in Google Trends. Obviously, we know the trend of kind of Gen Z millennials using social as their search engine as opposed to Google itself. So we've already got one pool of people moving over to another platform away from Google. Obviously, ChatGPT is another avenue for people to be going. So actually, we're moving away from Google Trends as kind of this kind of North Star in terms of demand. And really, it's difficult, really, because we're looking at it a year-on-year basis for some of our clients at the moment, and we're seeing decreases in the volume of demand that we're seeing in Trends. But is that market? Is that because people are moving to other platforms? Is that because of ChatGPT? It's really hard to distinguish what's actually doing what. Now, we know, as you said, that ChatGPT gives us limited search data in terms of what we're able to access, which definitely makes things a lot harder. But in terms of our kind of planning from a demand perspective, it means we have to use so many other platforms to try and bring all of that information together. So it's getting so much more complicated to be able to actually measure what demand levels are at the moment, when previously we had this North Star.
And that's the difficulty as well, because even from like a TikTok perspective, yes, we have creator search insights, which gives us insight into search data, but it all has to be pulled manually. They have released search volume data on the API, but it's limited to very few people can get access to it at this point in time. So you're right in the sense that we've kind of almost gone a little bit backwards, and I'm sure the platforms will release new products and they will pick up over time. So, give it 6 months or something of that nature. But at this point in time, where everyone's talking about AI giving us better efficiencies, to be able to plan where we should necessarily be putting our attention, it's actually taking us a bit longer at the minute, because you've got to start doing a lot of manual data pulls to be able to get all of the data that you need into one place.
But I always think plan for the future as a brand. We know we can slightly predict what's going to happen here. We know that an ad platform's likely to happen. We know that with the rumours, the better integration with shopping is going to happen. Like, these things will happen. So whilst we can't see everything right now, it shouldn't be, we're not going to do this. We're going to wait until this comes out, because there's plenty of brands out there now that are trying to crack the code a bit around it and play around with it. So my recommendation is better to go be a first mover than too late.
Well, anything you do now is going to benefit you in the future whenever it comes to ranking on platforms like ChatGPT. So it is worth investing in it. I think one interesting point that I was thinking about the other day was, so obviously for these product recommendations, it's looking at metadata, it's looking at product descriptions, it's looking at your more sort of traditional methods to pull that product data forward and make a recommendation to someone. ChatGPT historically isn't very good at integrating with platforms like TikTok and Instagram, for example, because a lot of the information on the products or people's opinions is embedded into the video. and it can only read captions at this point in time. So whenever you ask it to try and gather sentiment or take information out of it, it can't do that at the minute.
There
So
are tools that do that, though.
there are tools, yes, but not on that specific tool. So at what point does that then start having an impact on rankings within ChatGPT? So it becomes more intelligent, basically, and is able to read sentiment on social platforms better.
Or it's not just delivering text results,
Yes.
delivering video results as well.
Well, or taking the content off the piece of video and then like summarizing it and pairing it with all of this, like taking all of the information that's widely available and then making an informed suggestion to you, as opposed to just the
From
suggestion that
text,
has
I
the
mean.
most keywords. Does that make sense?
No, I think that will happen. I guess also there's a case of the verification of, taking stuff from videos. It's a lot of opinion. Depends on obviously what you're prompting it. Are you asking for what this person's opinion is on X topic, or is it an actual fact that you're looking for? If it's for a fact, then it obviously is an algorithm. They're fact checking it as much as they possibly can and verifying across multiple sources. But from an opinion-based stuff, I imagine that does go that route. But if you ask ChatGPT for someone's opinion right now, then it is just looking broader web. It
Also
might
a
not
bit more
just
of an
take
opinion
one.
validator at this point in time, but I think there's always going to be a skew towards that. But I think the benefit of it is that ultimately this is AI that we're talking about, so it is going to learn, it is going to get more intelligent, it will be able to decipher between different opinions and fact check it and decide that, but we're just not there with it yet. So at the minute it's kind of functioning as just another search platform in terms of the way that the data is being pulled in there. But the element that will be more interesting is it's being fed more data, more complex conversations on a daily basis than any other search engine has ever been fed before. So it should learn quicker and then be able to give even stronger recommendations. So I guess it is tricky at this point in time. We can kind of guess what's going to happen, like you said, but to be able to know where to put your attention in terms of marketing to future proof yourself for these types of recommendations.
In terms of an ad platform, Joey, do you think it will act very similarly to Google with maybe shopping results, text results, and then an
It's
answer?
interesting, really, how it would approach it, because, I mean, if you even look at it in the search-based platforms that we've got at the moment, all of the targeting is keyword-based. Now, from a prompting perspective, if you compare a Google search versus a well-written prompt has got a lot more information in it than what you would typically have within a Google search. Now, short and long tail searches are the thing on Google based on intent level. Obviously, longer tail searches generally highlight a higher level of intent. Shorter tail searches mean you're slightly further up the funnel. And we target based on the back of that in terms of what we're appearing for. So I guess the question is, how does that then integrate based on what the prompt and what the query is that's being typed in? And I think the interesting part of that is then how that develops, especially because you can have conversations with ChatGPT. With Google, it's a one search function, and you get your results and you make your action off the back end of that. Whereas with ChatGPT, you've got a search functionality where you're actually able to converse and dive deeper into specific subjects. So actually, from a targeting perspective, it's a really interesting way in terms of how that might be integrated into the platform, because it's quite a lot more complex than what you typically get within the search platforms that are available at the moment.
It probably won't be quite as high intent as what Google is, because you're right, you might type in buy product, but I think ChatGPT probably more likely to go for share me the 5 best, most highest reviewed products on this and explain exactly why their pros and cons or something like that. So it might be more like review based in terms of product and fact finding.
But it also might be that if they do launch this Shopify integration, you can purchase through it, that they know that you've purchased, so 2 weeks later you get a prompt from ChatGPT to leave a review. It depends how far out they go with building an entire ecosystem within the platform. I've also just searched. So I searched for, I want a good quality white t-shirt for women, and we're ranking number 1, as we should be. As in,
one of our clients. But I think what's interesting though is yes, it makes sense to integrate with Shopify or at least run some tests with them, but that just kind of is gonna kill off a whole, well, potentially. That's a good point that I would love to explore, but also like other, e-commerce website builders like Adobe, Magento, etc., etc. Why would you want to have your website hosted on anything other than Shopify? I know their share price like exploded 20% in a day from this, but
But the thing is that Shopify is the one that everyone's going to. Shopify has the direct integration with TikTok Shop, for example. Like
but there's
everything
still
is.
plenty of people on other legacy platforms. Still a lot of the
Yeah, but is
market.
that out of choice, or is that because they've just been on it and they've always been on it and they haven't made the move to
But it
elsewhere?
is literally killing off those other businesses, or will do. People will be, if there would likely be an integration between all of them, I'd like to think, but obviously Shopify makes sense as being the first one.
But I do think they're a little bit behind now anyway. If you think about the market share that Shopify has and why it has that market share is because it's such an easy to use platform. It's got direct plugins into everything. It's just the place to go to run any ecom website that you want. I mean, I've worked with clients that are on Magento, on other platforms, and they are more difficult to set up. They are more tricky. Yeah, you might have more control over certain bits of the website, because I know there's elements of Shopify that are a bit more templated in terms of the website structure, in terms of how that looks. But does that create an element of ease for the user and from a performance perspective, rather than...
It's also everyone knows the Shopify checkout page now. Do you know what I mean? So it also, I know this probably sounds a bit strange, people listening, but particularly for younger generation, particularly when we're talking about like your e-com digital first brands, they're all on Shopify realistically. And so younger generations, that's the checkout that they're used to seeing. They're used to seeing the shop pay, the app, do you know what I mean? Like the bar with the different payment models in it and stuff. So if you're on a different checkout, there's also that could be impacting your conversion as well for a specific generation I'm talking about here.
Actually, let's explore the thing about websites becoming obsolete though. What do you think about that?
We've talked about this a fair chunk internally and kind of predicted it. And obviously for us, it's an interesting one because TikTok Shop, for example, we have TikTok Shop first brands now where they've basically grown and developed on there. And now we've got this ChatGPT functionality. It might not be that a website is fully obsolete, but that the function of a website changes over time, and it's no longer the core place that people necessarily check out on, but they might be checking out on other platforms like a TikTok Shop for your lower ticket items, like a ChatGPT for other things. I would bloody love it if Pinterest would offer a checkout connection as well for Shopify. And it's kind of, we have our website as our core source of information. You can fact check anything yourself on there. We've got all of that. But we've got all these different commerce channels that then feeds that website. That's my personal prediction. What do you guys think?
I think it's I agree, but I think that's still a long way off.
Do you think?
I still think it's quite a long
way
off.
off.
By long, do we mean like, I'm thinking like 2 years we'll start to see that happen.
I think it'll be longer than that. Because if we refer back to the TikTok Shop side of things, in terms of how we've got brands on there, they're brands that are selling a specific type of product that would sell well on TikTok Shop. They're at roughly a specific price point. You're not going to sell $2,500 sofas on TikTok Shop.
No, you're not going to do it on TikTok Shop, but I think
But even on beauty, they're still going to retail. They're still going to the website. They're going to third party.
I think the interesting part of it is like we said, there is a specific type of product that sits on a TikTok Shop. Politely to TikTok, I think ChatGPT might have a bit more credibility in terms of the types of products. You might be able to go slightly higher ticket on the products that people will check out on ChatGPT. Where the interesting part will be is, when will consumer trust be high enough on other commerce channels outside of a website to buy a sofa, to buy a bed, to buy, I don't know, you showed me the other day, you can buy a house online, like a wooden house that you can put together. At what point are we buying a car, for
Like a
example?
tree house?
No, like in America, they have like flat pack houses that you can buy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So just need a bit of land and 50 grand and 50 grand about now.
Get working.
But I don't think for stuff like that, I think you'll use ChatGPT as a research search, and you might, ask it, say, oh, can you put that into my folder here type thing if it's connected and stuff. But I think you will do the checkout on the website still. But it's what commerce platform will get to a point where people feel comfortable paying for high ticket items on.
Lots of businesses have tried this before, and it does work to a good extent. It just hasn't caught on. I think, like, obviously, probably Amazon were maybe one of the first with, I forgot what the product is, but it's, one of those speakers you can have in your home, and you speak to, ask it what the weather is. Google obviously have theirs as well, and
the Alexa.
Alexa. Sorry, there was a lot of predictions back then that everyone's going to have these Alexas. Order an item.
Voice search? Because voice search was a massive thing.
But people do it. Like, we've only just got a Google Home set up now, but when we did have it, I would speak to Alexa and be like, order me some toilet roll, and it would turn up.
Yeah, but voice search was a big sort of trending thing in the past, wasn't it?
I think it's going to happen again though. Like, ChatGPT will do the same thing, but it'll just, because I guess with Alexa you were limited to Amazon products with that one. I don't know what the Google functionality is on that one, but I think all of this will come about again.
You think voice search will still?
I think some people might prefer voice, some people might do that, but I think the thing with ChatGPT is, and we've talked about it before, it becomes really valuable because people will just start speaking into it. Like, I speak to ChatGPT all the time, and I'll like give like a verbal download of a conversation that I've had, or like an email that I want to send and ask it to regurgitate it. The difficulty with that is that I can't sit out in the open office and regurgitate a private conversation that I've had with someone and draft it into a cohesive thought pattern, basically. And so oddly, we talked about, will there be like mouthpieces that people put over their mouths so that they can have spoken conversations with AI, and it like blurs the outward sound of it?
I know.
That would be a strange world if we got to that point.
So I guess, like, from your guys' perspective as marketers, how should we be setting up ourselves, our brands, in their minds of like what to expect and what 12 months could look like from today? 12
months from today, I do think there will be a checkout on ChatGPT personally, but I don't think it'll be for slightly lower ticket items, for example. So I think the main thing people can do is make sure that they are optimized for discoverability and optimized to be able to integrate with all of the platforms that they need to be integrating with. That is like the baseline. You should be doing that. Like, don't get stuck in old ways, plan for the future and do that. I think outside of that, it's just, there's a lot of noise for marketers at the minute, and every single week, it's exhausting. Every single week, it's like, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. Try not to get like too distracted or get shiny object syndrome. Like, plan for the future, make sure you've got all your ducks in a row, but focus on where your revenue is and where you anticipate your revenue to be in like 6 to 12 months. That would be my personal opinion on it. But Joey, what do you think?
Google and Meta will still be the core. I still don't think that's going to go away for a fair few years yet. So, I mean, like you said, Zoe, I think it's really keep going and doing what you're doing at the moment that's working, but give yourself the opportunity to test all of this new stuff that's coming out and see what's working for you as a brand, and because the big topic of conversation at the moment is incrementality. Like, what is it that's going to be giving you that positive step change from introducing a new platform into the equation, introducing a new checkout on a different platform into the equation? Like, that's the way that we need to be thinking about it, because I think what might happen is, again, shiny object syndrome. You might get a bit lost in terms of your strategic approach, and then you end up spreading yourself too thin, and actually you're then not really focused on the direction that you need to be moving forward as a brand. So I think it's really important just to keep going and doing what you're doing, because I don't think the core is going to change for a fair few years yet, but give yourself the opportunity to test what's going to give you incrementality, basically.
If you can, as a brand, like, I think if you can like set aside specific time for your team to test and learn, I think that is really valuable as well, because we're having to do it internally, and are going to be ramping it up even more over the next couple of months. But like, we have to start training our marketers, whether they're agency marketers or in-house marketers, to know what they're actually doing in the future. And it's not that like a whole load of people, you can hire a whole load of people that already know how to do it, because it doesn't exist right now. So whilst yes, you could hire like a CTO or a head of innovation that probably has a much better idea, that is going to be more technically fluid, that is going to be able to take it further. We don't know exactly how audiences are going to integrate, but the more that you can let your team test and learn and think and innovate, that is really important these days. Um, Really quickly, I've got one other thing that I want to ask, and that kind of felt like the end of the podcast, so sorry for anyone that thought it was. Um, Meta. So they have some weird and wonderful AI products around. Is it Llama 4 came out the other day? And obviously they've got their Ray-Bans, and it feels like they're taking a slightly different route with AI. And I actually was at an event and heard some of their AI team speak, and they're amazing in the knowledge that they have and what they're using it for. But they're behind in terms of commerce. I know we've got checkout in the US and stuff like that, but surely the next step for them within Messenger, for example, is to launch some type of chat that you can do the same thing that you're doing with ChatGPT now, to even just enable checkout more widely across the globe. Because I think oddly, there you could probably get a slightly higher price point product sold on Instagram than you could on TikTok Shop, because the brands have a more established presence there and stuff. So do we think that's going to come from Meta within the next 12 months?
Yeah, I think you're right in saying I think each brand will have its own like AI bot, AI agent as such, which is almost like, I guess it can do customer service, it can integrate with order numbers, and obviously we're seeing that on websites already happening, but directly on the social platforms, I think will happen. You could obviously ask it, and it can give you product recommendations, and then take you to the link to the website, or through Shop itself. But yeah, I think it'll be a place where actually a part of the media spend that we allocate towards doesn't just go towards the website, it actually funnels people. Obviously, Messenger has been a thing, and you used to have ManyChat, and it probably still is around, doing like automated flows on it. But this is like truly automated without even requiring the setup.
It's a tricky thing, because I guess we're going to end up in this space. Remember, like years and years ago, it'd be like, oh, you Google or you Bing, like there'd be a whole load of search engines and people would take their preferences to what they are. We're just ending up in a space now where it's becoming even more sparse, the landscape. And like we've talked about it a lot, but social isn't just organic search influencers as marketing channels. There's like a billion and one different things going on under there. So do we think that ChatGPT is going to swallow the majority of that and become like a conglomerate, like a Google, for example, for the majority of this AI search and everything that's going on? Or do we think we're just going to start to see everything just become sparser and sparser and split up against different interests, different demographics?
It's definitely got the brand of like the go-to is like the Google of AI, isn't it? So,
but to a consumer, is AI just search? It's not
no.
just search, but it has a search component in it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about over the next 12 months, to be honest, I don't think there's going to be a massive shift. I think Meta are already taking market share away from Google in terms of ad spend. We've seen that over the last 12 months based on the model that they've got at the moment. I don't think they're going to shift too heavily away from that based on what's working and knowing the trends that are happening in terms of the generations that are using platform, again, like we've discussed earlier, in terms of search.
But I think if Meta did bring in more of a native checkout, they would be able to dominate even further, because attribution would be even stronger within the platform, and we'd be able to, do you not think?
Yeah, I think so. I think it all comes back down to trust again, though, because again, any platform that introduces a new checkout into the process, there's still quite a long trust building process that has to happen. People trust checking out on websites because it's the websites that they're buying the product from. You take it back to a point of almost like if you're a retailer and you're selling lots of different brands, but if you're not a very well-known retailer actually it's actually quite difficult for the user to go onto that website, even if you know the products that you're buying, but it's from an unknown retailer. That's quite a difficult purchase to make because there's still a trust barrier there. And I still feel like that trust barrier will be there even if Meta, for example, introduce a checkout into the process, because people won't be used to shopping onto it. There still needs to be a trust that gets built there.
I do think the trust for Meta will build quicker than TikTok Shop, though. My trust barrier is down. I'll buy anything. Random stuff turns up at our flat all the time. You're like, what have you bought on TikTok Shop? I bought a tongue scraper the other week.
That's nonsense. Yeah.
But yeah, I
It's going to cost a huge amount of money to develop these products from Meta side, and
that's what I mean. It
it's
feels
a huge
like
investment. So it's
everyone's kind of taking their own route with how they want to invest their budget into AI and how it's going to take it forward. And I think from a performance perspective,
because they could invest loads of money, push it to every brand, and say you should spend more on directing your traffic to your Instagram shop. It not perform that well and lose distrust with brands and advertisers.
because the tricky thing is with commerce is like with the ChatGPT stuff that's coming through, it's not actually really AI. It's just a search platform at this point in time, because it's just taking data that's already out there and then kind of regurgitating it to you. So when we're talking about commerce
In that format,
in that
AI is a lot.
yes, exactly. But I guess I'm interested to see how commerce and actual true artificial intelligence integration works moving forward. Like, I don't think we're quite there yet to understand what that's going to look like.
Well, within ChatGPT, you might ask it for some product recommendations of some sofas. You then take a picture of your room, and then it obviously places it in that room.
But is that AI though?
It's image generation, using that product. And
Yeah, because it's quite good for like room planning. We've been doing it at home for our garden. Take a picture of your garden, be like, plan a garden design for me, and it'll do it for you. So I think
that's been a recent trend.
Yeah, that integration into specific products into that, I think, could be a really good
it's
opportunity.
product suggestion without prompt that it can do for you, and I guess that's whenever it knows your tastes, your styles,
and its
what
memory
you want to see.
Its memory is they are investing in building the memory of ChatGPT for you, specific for each individual user. But it will also, it could know your entire wardrobe that you've got currently, know the weather, what is over the next month, and build your and
then give you a load of outfit suggestions.
Yeah, and you've got gaps here and here. Here's some product recommendations that you could.
Yes, fair. So it's the product recommendation part that is the commerce functionality for us in this. But it could do that, but we don't know if that's how we're gonna integrate with it. So it's just interesting to see how the true integration is, because I don't think at this point in time.
I guess we think about it's unlimited capability.
But that as marketers, that's the bit that we have to tap into as our brain, because we're so trained.
How we
to
use
think,
it now is not
like prompt, search, result, rank. It kind of becomes completely disseminated whenever we get into this space.
It's unlimited capability, however you want to use it, if you think about it.
Yeah. But I think that's why you have to invest in your team and opening their brain up to these things, because we're so trained to think in a very trained and linear way as marketers, and this kind of throws a lot of those principles out the window in a way. We're getting more into that like storytelling capability, like tapping into emotional responses to things. Like it's just a whole new world for marketers. Are we excited?
Always.
Good.
It's good. If we're doing the same thing we were doing 5 years ago, it'd be pretty dull, wouldn't it? Like, progress is good. Progress is good.
Okay, on that note, we'll wrap up. Thank you both for joining. And thank you for listening to us ramble on. We hope you found it helpful. We publish these podcasts every single week, so please feel free to let us know if there's a topic you would like us to cover. And thank you very much for watching. It makes us really happy. Thanks, guys.